Hey friends, Kambria Evans here with the Zero Disturbance Podcast. We are moving through our latest series, Why Women Go to Therapy. And I have just had LASIK eye surgery. I am not all the way healed, but I thought to myself, why not do an episode about seeing things clearly? I love when life gives me metaphors that correspond with what I'm trying to figure out in my personal life with my clients. And I think one of the most important things that I want women to have is clarity. I want them to see things clearly because the majority of things we do as therapists, as EMDR clinicians, as Brainspotting clinicians is helping people see themselves and reality with a new set of eyes. We've talked in previous episodes how women oftentimes will default to the negative belief of something's wrong with me, it's my fault, taking on a lot of responsibility. We've talked in previous episodes in this series about how that's programmed into us since birth as women to take on a lot, be responsible for a lot, caretake a lot, and how what's so exciting in my office is to see women deprogramming that curriculum that was never true. It was never true. It's just given to us. So with all that being said, I think I wanted to take an opportunity today to talk about the clarity that comes with two emotions that all of us feel. They're on the feelings wheel. But in particular, women oftentimes are not allowed to have a healthy relationship with these emotions. And these emotions are so important on helping women get clear. Pretty much every woman that I work with, no matter what the content or topic area is in my practice, they have to go through these two feelings. And these feelings are anger and disgust. So much to say about this. I think that there has been a really horrible branding of anger when it comes to all of us, but especially women. There is a message that anger is bad, that we're not allowed to be angry. And I think what's really dangerous about that message is, first of all, it's not true. A feeling is a feeling. What we do with the feeling is what matters. And the function of anger is important in helping us survive and helping us thrive. We have got, especially as women, we have got to have a relationship with our anger. If one more woman comes into my office for EMDR and Brainspotting, having already worked with a talk therapist, and tells me, well, my therapist said I'm not supposed to be angry. My therapist says my anger isn't good for me. If you are a therapist listening to this, if you take nothing else from this episode, I beg you, stop participating in the message that anger is bad for women. Because we're missing a nuance, aren't we? Right? The feeling of anger is neither good or bad. It is useful because the feeling of anger is an alarm system in our bodies telling us that something is happening that is not okay. And if we continue, especially in the mental health community, if we continue to disconnect women from their anger, on top of all the messages we get about it in mainstream society, right? Women are supposed to be kind and nice and not get angry and not be a bitch. We have got to stop doing this, okay? Anger is helpful. We need it. It lets us know something is happening that should not be happening. What else does anger do? Anger gives us action energy in our bodies. Think about this for a minute. Anger is enlivening to our nervous system. It creates energy, right? Now, here's the nuance part. What we do with that energy matters, right? We're not going to go around, being evil and destructive with it, okay? Now, the choice to use anger in an inappropriate way, that oftentimes gets bundled in with this idea that we shouldn't have anger. What we can say instead is, either to our clients or to ourselves, is I can have the feeling of anger. It is useful and important. What I choose to do with it matters. Okay, that's the nuance. But you know what's interesting? We tell women it's okay to be sad and cry. That's not wrong or bad, but if you think about the contrast between how anger feels and how sadness and crying feels, right? Sadness is heavy. Sadness and crying puts us into a collapse state, okay? Which is appropriate sometimes. The feeling is neither good or bad. But putting women in a collapsed state of sadness and telling them this is okay to be in, where there's no action energy, right? But being in anger with energy to move you into action, that's not good. We've got to stop thinking this. We've got to rebrand this. I will not stop talking about this until we do. Okay? Why is action energy important for women? We all know anger is protective. It's part of our alarm system. It tells us something is happening that should not be happening. If I get action anger in my body, I then get to decide what to do with it. And if my anger needs to protect something vulnerable, something that's being abused, being hurt, being mistreated, and injustice, I need my anger, I need my alarm system, and I need my action energy to protect me. It's that simple. And protection takes many forms. Protection can take distancing forms. It can take fight. Distancing is often called flight, right? We freeze, we fawn. There's many different ways we can protect ourselves, okay? But by telling women anger is bad, which means we don't even get to feel it in our alarm system, which means we don't even have a way to measure with our body if something is happening is okay or not. And then we don't get the feeling, and then we don't get to go into the action energy to protect ourselves. Do you see the problem here? And do you see why this branding is intentional? It's okay for women to go into a collapsed state with sadness and crying. It's not okay for women to go into the anger, action energy of protection. Why would this system be something we've been told? If nobody was ever trying to control you, hurt you, have power over you, dominate you, this system wouldn't exist. This is literally what abusers tell people they want them to do, right? I want you to collapse and do what I say and be heavy in your energy and immobile. I don't want you to know that what I'm doing is wrong and to have some action energy to protect yourself and make what's happening outside of you different and safer. I get really excited thinking about what would happen if this was different for women, if this messaging was corrected, if therapists would join me in communicating this alarm system and action energy of protection effectively with their clients. Do you know how much more clarity and safety women would be able to access in themselves? We've changed nothing on the outside, right? Everything I'm talking about in this series is really important to me, and I really see it as part of being a revolution for women to have their rights. And if you are a therapist listening to this and you believe in social justice and you believe women should be able to protect themselves, I really want you to try this on with your clients. If you are a woman that is noticing in yourself that you don't even get to have a relationship with anger and you want to change that and you want to own it and you want to believe I get to have my alarm system with all my feelings and I get to use the action energy in my body, not telling me that it's bad and I shouldn't have it, right? But that it needs to come out. It needs to come out of me into protection. That's what it was designed to do. You know, oftentimes when we realize that we need to be protected from something, it can feel confusing because let's say that you are betrayed in a relationship. Let's say that the person that you were with has had multiple affairs. Let's say this person that maybe even you've left them, but this person is now with one of his mistresses, using her for his narcissistic supply. Let's say you still feel that protective anger energy. How do we unhook from that? How do we know we're safe? And when women come in here, what they really get to do that's really beautiful is the internal work of understanding that the positive beliefs of self that you are protecting belong to you. Oftentimes, as women, we've been taught that society gets to tell us our positive beliefs or negative beliefs. Our partners get to tell us our positive beliefs or negative beliefs. We don't even have ownership of them. What do I mean by that? Right? It's very often in a relationship where protection is needed, where women don't feel clear about positive beliefs of, I am good enough. I'm fine as I am. I have control. I have choices. I am powerful, right? I deserve respect. This is different than I'm not good enough. I did this, so therefore this happened to me. Like there's this blaming, shaming, not enoughness, helplessness. Again, no one's born with this. This is all given to us in society, right? So when women come in here and realize my anger makes sense because the action of protection makes sense, and I never fully owned my positive beliefs in that relationship because the nature of so many relationships for women are that they are not equal. They do not have equal ownership, right? They don't get to be self-led. When you are self-led, you own all of your positive cognitions. You're open to feedback, you're open to learning, but you own your positive beliefs. You own and live in, I'm fine as I am. I am powerful. And when we get into situations where the alarm goes off, whether it's an abusive marriage or just living in the patriarchy or being in a toxic work environment, where we get tripped up inside of ourselves, and this is not our fault, this is happening outside of us, but where it gets confusing inside of us with this protection wanting to come in is not fully owning our positive cognitions, not being self-led. Because if those are fortified in a castle of self, then they're not up for debate. They're not up for debate. And that leads us to our next feeling of disgust. Once somebody comes in and works with me and understands that their anger is protective, and thank God they have it, and thank God their bodies go into action, and thank God the protection comes online, and the positive beliefs come back to her, right? Come back to being self-led. What happens next? We see things clearly, right? We see things clearly. The glasses come off. Right? Literally, the glasses come off. We see it clearly. And what do we see now? When we own our positive cognitions, we see the other person or that unsafe situation very, very clearly. What do I mean by that? The feeling of disgust, I've talked about this in previous episodes in this series. The feeling of disgust is important to our alarm system. Why? Because it tells us that we need to physically distance from something because we have an ew. Like I love the part of EMDR processing with clients or even for myself when I can feel my face like, ugh, or I can see their faces go into disgust. Because what that tells me as a therapist is they are in that positive belief of self. They know they're fine as they are. They know they're powerful. That perpetrator is distanced from them. That narcissist is distanced from them in their processing. They no longer get to confuse the positive cognition. So what happens? That person becomes clearly disgusting. Disgusting so much that faces squish up, bodies pull away. This is literally what our system is designed to do, right? The clarity of understanding, not just how unsafe the situation was, right? But also now understanding how disgusting somebody is physically makes us distance. It clarifies any illusion that this was a person, work environment, situation that my body wanted to lean into for positive beliefs of I am safe, I'm loved, I am respected. It literally makes our bodies pull back with disgust. Disgust is one of the most protective feelings we have. And it's so overlooked. It's kind of this forgotten underdog, right? But if you think about it, back in caveman times, we would go around and smelling things and tasting things. And if they were disgusting, it's because they were not safe for us to eat or take in. Y'all, energy and people are the exact same. If you trust and allow yourself to hear your alarm system in your body that you already have, right? But that gets confused. Especially with women who are in situations where they're being abused, because people will confuse them and say things like, but he was such a nice guy, but he's such a great dad, but he was such a great leader at the church, right? He's safe. It's safe, right? Don't leave that company. You make so much money. The benefits are amazing, right? What that messaging is telling us, no, really, it's safe. Disconnect from your alarm system. Disconnect from the anger that's going to put you in action energy to protect and the disgust that is going to follow that allows you to physically want to distance, right? When you see someone clearly like this and you know that you are self-led in your positive beliefs, you can see them or the situation for what it really is. Something really amazing happens next. Sometimes people will fall into what we can refer to as forgiveness, right? Not that what happened was okay, not that that's a safe person or not a disgusting person, but the forgiveness of just oh, I see it clearly now. I accept reality, right? Forgiveness can be forgiving the situation for being confusing, right? This was confusing. Now it's clear. I accept the clarity. And part of accepting the clarity is realizing how unsafe it was, how you can make yourself safe now by protecting and being repelled by disgust. And when you feel that distance in your body and in your wiring from someone who felt so wonderful and safe, or a job that looked so appealing and now you realize it's going to kill you if you have to work 80 hours a week, the clarity and lightness and neutrality that comes with that often can lead people to feel like it's forgiven, it's done, right? Which again is not the same as saying it's okay that happened. That's a safe person. I'm going to lean in towards them. No, the protection system is clear. It's fortified. And then we move on. We move on because our body no longer wants to lean towards that space, that relationship, that situation. And we get to be really grateful for learning that. We get to trust our protection and safety system. We have got, by design, these emotions that help us figure these things out. And understanding that if it's not always clear, it's not because you're trauma bonded. It's not because something's wrong with you. It's because you have been trained since birth as a woman to disconnect from your emotions that society thinks are going to make you powerful, like anger and disgust, because it ignites a safety system and a distancing from things that aren't good for you. So how amazing is it that you're even thinking about this, working on this in therapy, because so many things around you are telling you that's not a real problem, right? Well, that feeling you have in your alarm system, well, that's bad. You shouldn't even feel it. Right? There's so much brainwashing and gaslighting around this. And this conversation is so important to me because I really think it needs to be so different. The safety and goodness of society depends on this, right? Women are half of society. I think what's really cool when I support women, what happens next after all of this process is, and I'm not a therapist who forces forgiveness because that means different things to different people. But what I think is amazing next, when someone's body wants to move away from something toxic or something abusive, is the realization that we as women at any age can understand and rewire how to be self-led, not just with our positive cognitions of self, not just with seeing things clearly now, right? And fortifying that, But then what happens that's really cool is that we understand that with all that programming that made things unclear, we now take the clarity and decide, wait a minute, I can actually create any positive feeling state I want. Because if I'm self-led and I own my positive beliefs and I know I can keep myself safe and pull away from things that are bad for me, that I don't want any part of, then I can also create a positive feeling state. Why is this so powerful? I'll tell you why. We are trained as women, and we're going to have a couple episodes about this, that we are not the owners of creating our positive feeling states, right? Think about it as women. Not okay to touch your own body, not okay to have pleasure, not okay, right? It's like, as a heterosexual woman, many of us were trained and taught that you can have pleasure in your body with a man, and you have to wait till you're married. You have to wait till you're trapped in a marriage, and then hopefully you'll get that positive feeling state of pleasure. We're going to do a whole episode on women and pleasure, by the way. But this idea of being a successful and complete person, right? Think about how young we are when we get the messaging of, you're going to feel successful and complete when you get married and have kids. Then you're going to feel like you made it, you did it, right? We get this messaging, and it's funny to zoom out and think about it now in my 40s. It's like, what is that? Again, it's not wrong or bad to get married and have kids. It's not wrong or bad to wait until marriage to be with a man sexually. But the idea that we don't even get a choice to have our own experiences of pleasure, like to own our experiences of being successful and complete as people without bringing in other people, that does not make us powerful. That does not make us equal. It makes us dependent on someone else giving us that positive feeling state. And when we become fully dependent, when we mix our positive beliefs in with someone else and there's no other choices, right? When it's heavily branded, we are powerless in so many ways. We don't even realize it. And I think what's interesting about this generation, my generation, is like, we were kind of the first generation of women that had rights. Like the right to own a business, to get a business loan, to have a credit card, a checking account, all the things about, when Roe v. Wade existed, like autonomy over our body. There was one generation that got that. One out of, I don't even know how many thousands of years of not having close to equal rights. And we're kind of onto you. Like we kind of get it now, right? We're getting it. We need to keep talking about it because once we know we can own our positive cognitions, once we know that we can own our positive feeling states and create them without another person, a man, right? We are not dependent on understanding we're successful, we're fine as we are good. We're good, right? We're powerful. And being dependent on someone is not a bad thing. Where it is dangerous, especially for women, and y'all know the stats on this, is that when we are funneled into being dependent on positive feeling states from a man, the assumption in that safety system is that man is safe and he is also self-led, meaning he's got his positive beliefs of self all lined up in a row. And guess what? When someone is an alcoholic or a sex addict or a pathological liar or a narcissist, those people are not self-led. I don't care what leadership position they are in. I don't care if they hold a position in the military. I don't care if they hold the position of being a leader of their own company. It doesn't matter. If they are not self-led in their positive beliefs of self, if they cannot regulate themselves, if they cannot know who they are without having to be dominant and powerful over someone else, a woman, right? That is not a safe person. And we should not be teaching our sisters and daughters and female friends to get funneled into a system where they are dependent on someone else to give them positive beliefs and positive feeling states that they don't get to own. And let's just hope that that man is safe. That is a terrible system. No insurance company would insure that system because it is not safe, right? I feel excited about women knowing more and more, and I will never shut up about this until all women get it, that they can be self-led in their positive beliefs of self. They can be self-led in creating their own positive feeling state to show themselves the evidence of those positive beliefs. And that we as women can say, your branding doesn't make any sense, right? And I have choices. This is real power. If you are a therapist listening to this, I want you to understand something. You can be a social justice advocate, not just for women, but for any oppressed group with the same framework, right? You are part of a movement. If you are a therapist, a coach, a healer, you can be part of a revolution if you understand this. If you are a woman and you are in therapy or thinking about therapy, or you have a friend in therapy, a girlfriend, share this episode. Listen to this episode. Really take it in. If your therapist doesn't get it, send it to your therapist, right? Because real liberation internally is the catalyst for all the things that have to change around us. And if we, as a group of women, understand that the messaging we've been given is oppressive in so many ways because it disconnects us from ourselves, it disconnects us from owning our positive beliefs, it disempowers us from creating our own positive feeling states like pleasure, power, creativity, anger, disgust. If we all got this and we all lived it, could y'all imagine what kind of world we'd be living in right now? It would not be the current situation we're in. It would look much different. So with all that being said, I appreciate y'all joining me to think about what's important and what we can do in our offices, in our lives, as individuals, as a collective. We have a lot more power than we realize. And I look forward to being with y'all next time. In the meantime, be well.